like to have some music. Where's the music? I can't hear it. Okay, you're all welcome. On the first episode of Mngxitama on Sunday Live, we're going to do this every Sunday, exactly the same time, 1 o'clock. We're going to deal with the news that did not make it to the news. Why this program? It's because in South Africa we know that the media is highly concentrated. In other words, our news are generated by one person. All the news channels are controlled by the same narrative of white monopoly capital. It's important, anyone who wants to change the world, wants to make a revolution, to have the capacity to give a counter narrative, or at least a perspective that comes from the oppressed, or also in our context from black people. For instance, Karl Marx says, the dominant ideas in any society are the ideas of the ruling class. What does that mean? It simply means that to rule, you need ideas so that you just don't oppress people, but you get their consent. People must agree to be ruled. Let's think about what happened in feudalism. Under feudalism, you know, there was the king, and then there was the feudal lords, and all stratas of society. They had an ideology. The ideology said, God said there must be a king, and we, the poor, must work for free. And the poor are believed in the ideology of the feudal lords and the king. And as a result, that system lasted for long. It was only when a counter-narrative happened that the oppressed people were able to overthrow the system of feudalism. We live in a feudal society, also in South Africa, run by white people, what we call white monopoly capital. Steve Biko, our father, also makes a big thing about this idea of our own ideas. Biko says, the most important weapon in the hands of the oppressor, he says the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor, it is the mind of the oppressed. Brother Malcolm X says, and I quote him, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppression. So the power of the media is incredible. They make us believe what we say is our truth. In South Africa today, if you ask an ordinary person what is state capture, they'll say it is the Guptas and it is Zuma. Nobody asks the question, who put this idea in the minds of the people? The media. Nobody asks the question, who owns the media? It's white monopoly capital. Who is white monopoly capital? White people, real white people. You'll never know their names. They are invisible. They're using their media. We hope every Sunday we can start unpeeling a little bit the cover that hides the hands of white monopoly capital. Hopefully by the end of the year, you will know better who Renwick is, Robin Renwick is. You will know better who Johan Rupert is, Christoph Wesse, Marcus Jorste, the people who run South Africa, the people who own South Africa, these white people. For instance, the Oppenheimer family. You don't know these people because they have their media, which make them invisible, but they control our lives. So welcome to Mngxitama on Sunday, where we deal with the news which did not make the news. You will find us on a number of social media because this is an alternative. You follow me on Twitter, Mngxitama, @Mngxitama. You follow us also at Black Opinion. You can go to Facebook, Mngxitama, Black Talk, and Mngxitama, Black Talk. Every Sunday, we will be doing this. Okay, let's start the format quickly. We're going to do some engagement with South African reality, what has happened, what has not gone to the media, rereading some of the media stuff, and then we're going to go to Zimbabwe, we go to Latin America, and then I can't wait for my brother Ati Georgia, who's going to be in the studio with me. We're going to talk about James Cole and black theology and how he, James Cole, our brother who just passed on, influenced Steve Biko and black consciousness in South Africa. So you gotta stay on for that one. It's gonna be, I think, and I have some surprises for him. He doesn't know. Anyway, let's start. The news that did not make the news is around our mother, Umama Winnie Mandela. The news that did not make the news is basically this. When Umama Winnie Mandela passed on, the majority of black people, for the first time, understood what happened to her. And we remembered what white people did to her, the tortures, the sending of spies to their house, the making hell of her life, putting her in jail, solitary confinement. We remembered. And there was national anger of black people against white people. So what happened here, white people are very smart and we must respect white people. Realizing that we're uniting around the memory of Umama Mandela, and we're all saying the problem in this country again was caused by white people. They brought their media, they brought their agent to turn black people against black people. The first thing they did there at the funeral, we heard for the first time the names of people who supposedly sold out Mama Winnie Mandela, and those names are of black people. Initially, ENCA, which is, of course, the extreme right-wing TV channel in South Africa, tried to run a demonization of Umama Winnie Mandela. But Black Twitter responded, and they realized that they couldn't demonize her. What they did, very smart, very clever. They brought in a documentary on Winnie Mandela. That documentary has been done almost a year before. They did not do so. At this moment, when we were all angry against white people, they brought the documentary. And the documentary shows what the ANC did to Mama Winnie Mandela. How Mama Mandela was betrayed by even Mandela, Desmond Tutu. I saw Black Twitter shifting away from the white perspective. In other words, the white people going to black people. For the first time, young people were saying things like, I hate Mandela, after watching the documentary. It was done deliberately. Some were hating Desmond Tutu. And then Julius Malema started talking about spies. Started dropping names of the ANC. They started giving us the names of people like Andile Mngxitama and other comrades of Winnie Mandela. These are the enemies, and all of us shifted, and now we're looking at these people as the enemy. See what the media has done to us. They've shifted our perspective from gazing into the white problem. But I think what was shocking more for me was how, even at the funeral, no one mentioned the name F.W. de Klerk. No one mentioned the name Adrian Flock. These are white people who are alive today who were in the apartheid state. How come when at this moment we remember what the apartheid state did to Mama Winnie Mandela, we don't mention these white people? And then when you watch that documentary, there's a white man there called Vic McPherson. Nonchalantly, he's brushing his dog, as it can, I don't remember now. He says things like, yeah, I used to run Stratcom, You can see he's sitting there in a big fat pension from the state. He used to torture us, this man, he used to murder us. He sits there and he says, brushing his dog, whatever. I actually had 40 journalists who worked for me to run this propaganda against Winnie Mandela and them. He did not, white people are smart again, he did not drop one name of his agents. We are fighting amongst ourselves about Mandela is a sellout and so on, but not one white name was mentioned. 40 journalists who are still practicing today were paid by the apartheid regime for this Stratcom dirty tactic program against Winnie Mandela and other revolutionaries. And the white men, and we not even ask, no one said, McPherson, who are these people? So we, myself and the organization I lead, Black First, Land First, we went out and started doing some investigations. Next week, we're starting to drop some of those names. We have a very solid information about who are these 40 journalists, and we're going to start naming them so that we can deal with them. So that's it. Remember, when Winnie died, when she left us, we were organized, united to fight. They used their media to make us fight amongst ourselves. And they use their agents who hate black people more than they hate the oppressor. Good. Now let's go to the second theme I want to cover today. The great purges of RET forces. Radical economic transformation, people are under attack, they are under pressure. We already know that people like Dudumien has been dealt with, our brother Hlaudi Motsoeneng has been dealt with, our brother Brian Molefe has been dealt with. President Zuma, they went for him, they pushed him out of power. When he was out of power, they went still, they opened charges which were long drop. Over 10 years ago, 3 institutions have said those charges don't hold. And we know those charges come from KPMG. KPMG, everybody knows that KPMG is a rogue audit firm. They are on the attack, the people of the New Dawn, supported by imperialism. So now what they are doing contemporary right now, the Northwest is burning. I think we do not realize how evil what's happening in the Northwest is. They say Supra Mahumapilu must go. They have not opened charges against Supra Mahumapilu. The ANC itself has not called a disciplinary hearing against Supra Mahumapilu to find him guilty for wrongdoing. No court of law has said Supra Mahumapilu is corrupt. No investigation has said so. A few people who all know that are anti-radical economic transformation in the Northwest have allowed themselves to be used by white monopoly capital, funding our people on the ground to start these so-called protests. Look at the police. Bekitele is not sending the police to deal with what they would have generally done. They are allowing. So the police is organizing this fermentation and burning of property by a few minority in the Northwest. Why? Because they want Supra to go. Why they want Supra to go is a big question. It's because Supra is seen as a member of the radical economic transformation. But what our people don't know is this. Cyril Ramaphosa wants all the minerals in the Northwest to be given to white people. Supra is refusing because Supra says the mining charter says 30% of this must go to black people. Black people must benefit from the minerals in the province. And Ramaphosa, remember, he is a business partner of Lonmin, the London company, whom together with Ramaphosa murdered our people in Marikana. So Supra is simply saying, we can't do this. Now they are organizing the people from the ground to remove Supra Mahumapilu through what they call a revolutionary process. It is a counter-revolution. This is what they do everywhere on earth. Today, imperialism organizes the poor against themselves. That's what is happening in the Northwest. I repeat, the only reason there is this uprising against Supra Mahumapilu, it is because white monopoly capital wants Supra gone because they want the minerals in that province. We must not allow it. And I think the ANC must be told. Ramaphosa cannot be allowed to take the mineral resources of our country, to share them with his friends, white monopoly capital, and to harass all of us who want radical economic transformation. It must not be allowed. Now the second person who they've gone to is Brother Tom Moyane. Tom Moyane is toast, that's what I want to say. I mean, the Cyril train is moving very fast, it's moving very brutally. Cyril has decided to hire or to ask the retired judge, Kate O'Regan, a known agent of white monopoly capital, to basically sit on a kangaroo court to basically so-called discipline Tom Moyane. Tom Moyane is the head of SARS, as we know, and we also know that the reason why he is in trouble because he had said he cannot accept the criminal activities of Pravin Gordhan. Remember, Pravin Gordhan established a criminal rogue unit at SARS. In fact, KPMG and many others have said, indeed, that was a criminal activity. And the shocking thing is KPMG has withdrawn its own forensic report. The same KPMG which refuses to withdraw its forensic report where it got to do with the charges against President Zuma. But so now, let's talk about this judge, Kate O'Regan, this agent of white monopoly capital. She's linked to all the so-called Save South Africa NGOs. She's part of the so-called Corruption Watch, which is actually pushing corruption of white monopoly capital. She is with the George Soros groups. Shockingly enough, she is even with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So she is a fully grounded white monopoly imperialist agent who is being asked to preside over disciplinary process that's going to deal with somebody we know is for radical economic transformation. So if I was Brother Tom Moyane, I will know that I'm going into the slaughterhouse. There are no rules for radical economic transformation adherents and activists. Kate O'Regan is coming for your neck, even with Dalim Pofu on your side. This is war, and they're going for the probe. Okay, now I want to turn to something I think more important, the news, the really big news that not make the news. Lord Robin Renwick was in South Africa past 2 weeks. Firstly, they tried to downplay it. And then Patricia de Lille, because she knows the power of Renwick, because she's in trouble with the DA, she took a picture with Renwick saying that Renwick, she appreciates the contribution of Robin Renwick to South Africa's liberation. Sister Peg, please also, even if you are under attack, don't go out like that. We expect you to fight like a true Pan-Africanist a little bit, or at least a black person. Now, who is Robin Renwick? Those who follow Black First, Land First will know that our primary enemy in terms of fighting imperialism is this man, Robin Renwick. He's a lord. He is an agent of the Queen. Robin Renwick is the guy who was sent to negotiate Lancaster in Zimbabwe. Make sure that white people don't lose their land. Remember in Lancaster, what happened there, despite the fact that Zimbabweans had won the war, Lancaster Agreement said they can't take the land for at least 10 years. And so then after that, he went to Namibia. He did the same thing. Then they sent him to South Africa as an ambassador around the time of the negotiations. Robin Renwick is so proud to say that he is the man that convinced Nelson Mandela to drop nationalization. In fact, go to YouTube. Just check Robin Renwick. He's there. He's saying it. He coached Mandela to move away from a nationalization before Nelson Mandela met at the time Margaret Thatcher. Now, October 2015, Julius Malema and his gang went to London to see Robin Renwick. Malema said to J.J. Tabane on Power FM, he didn't know who Renwick was. Okay, maybe Julius doesn't know who Renwick was. Okay, fine, Julius, you didn't know who Renwick is, despite the fact that you're sitting next to him and you're taking pictures, so you didn't know. All right, fine. Renwick, in his book, How to Steal a Country, in page 145, he says, well, I met these guys. And he even go further to say that in interviews that I met EFF on their request. No, let me repeat. I met Julius Malema on his request. This is what Renwick says. Now, of course, you know the title of this book, How to Steal a Country, a colonialist writing a book about how to steal a country when they've stolen our country. I mean, this is British imperialism. But he says how to steal a country, referring to President Zuma. You see there in this book, yes, Zuma must go, a picture which was funded, organized by them. The Zuma must go march was funded, organized by Renwick. He turns around and says, oh, he's coming to South Africa also to thank these people who saved South Africa. Save South Africa meaning that they saved South Africa from radical economic transformation. Well, imperialism was shit scared. Oh, I'm sorry. Imperialism was really scared last December. They thought that the radical economic transformation forces of NDZ are going to take over. You can see when you read this, you know, the terror comes through. These people are fearful of President Zuma. Anyway, Renwick says, well, those guys asked me to meet them. I asked Dalim Pofu in a group I'm with, Advocate Dalim Pofu. I said, but what's going on here, Advocate? He says, well, he himself did not know that we're going to meet Renwick until he saw Renwick in the meeting. And the People's Advocate says, the meeting was only 3 minutes. Renwick says, the meeting was long. And Renwick says, when he spoke to the EFF people, leaders, he got a clear indication that they were not committed to nationalization policy. Well, here's the problem. And this is a big surprise. EFF has not denounced Renwick for lying. They did not say, Renwick, you're lying. What you wrote in the book is a lie. What you're saying in the interviews is a lie. We did not ask to meet you. It is you who wanted to meet us. We did not know that we're going to meet you. They're not saying that, Renwick, you're lying. We're committed to nationalization despite what you're saying. Who is EFF? EFF, anybody who says anything against them, they drop a tweet. There is not even one tweet against this man, Robin Renwick. Because Julius can't speak against Robin Renwick. Because Julius is handled by Robin Renwick. And Robin Renwick is our biggest problem. Now, the news, what not tell you is this. The actual reason for Robin Renwick to come to South Africa is not to launch the book. He was just to come and say hello to his people. The biggest reason was that he was in the country to instruct Julius Malema to work with Cyril Ramaphosa. That is why Julius Malema has written a letter to Ramaphosa to ask for a meeting. You know, you must be a little bit sympathetic to Julius also, because he's in a corner. See, before they did this, they revived his charges of corruption and fraud. When Renwick was in the country, I can imagine a meeting where Renwick says, Mr. Malema, you're in trouble, you're going to jail, but we can help you. Cyril will defend you, will protect you. Simply bow to Cyril and make sure the Marikana problem goes away. That is why Julius is going back to the ANC. 2 reasons. To make sure that the Marikana massacre goes away, Cyril is cleansed of the Marikana massacre. The second big reason why he's going back, and Renwick wants it like that, is because Julius Malema will disorganize the radical economic transformation forces inside the ANC. He will steal their radical rhetoric, but he will support the right-wing project of Ramaphosa. So he'll speak left, and they will continue to maintain the white monopoly capital project, and there will be no radical economic transformation. Renwick knows Ramaphosa is weak. He will be a one-term president without Julius Malema. So he's bringing Julius to help Ramaphosa make sure that they continue with the new dawn. We must warn the radical economic transformation forces inside the ANC. You allow Julius Malema to come in, know that he's coming to destroy radical economic transformation while speaking about radical economic transformation. This week, we'll not talk about state-owned entities, but next week we'll certainly go into what is happening at Eskom. They are looting Eskom. White monopoly capital is looting Eskom. Next week I'll talk about the KPMG saga as well. What is going in there? But the thing that you must say about KPMG, one, is simply that KPMG must withdraw. It must withdraw the forensic report it has. Now I want us to talk a little bit quickly about AfriForum. AfriForum, or we call it the Euroforum, abroad, trying to make sure that there's economic sabotage. And we know that some of this AfriForum is busy with military training and racist indoctrination of young white people. We know that they are dividing black people. They sponsored recently the Khoisan Summit. We want to also send a message to people who call themselves colored or call themselves Khoisan. Their leaders are in the pockets of AfriForum. They're in the pockets of racist people. And these want to make sure they are giving these brothers and sisters who claim to represent or to be leaders of the Khoisan people money, so that the so-called colored people can turn against their own brothers and sisters who are black. Look at the Khoisan people. They're not talking about reparation for the genocide that the Afrikanizers committed against our people. They don't talk about taking land and making war against these Boere. They are in the same side with the Boere against us. It's not the first time. When they arrived here in 1652, they divided us. They are dividing us again now. Our message to colored, so-called colored people, those who call themselves colored, those who call themselves Khoi and the Sun, we're saying you are African like all of us, you are black like all of us, we have one enemy, and that is what monopoly capital. And the Boere are the ones that are your enemies, not us. Do not allow yourself to divide black people. You're delaying the struggle for the return of the land. Of course, all of us are unhappy with the ANC. All of us. It is a lie to say, and this is also a challenge to the colored intellectuals. Why are you allowing your people to be misled by the Boere? You know it's a lie. The idea that Africans have jobs, colors don't have jobs. Africans have been taken care of. You know that's a lie. Why don't you come out? Why don't we hear you correcting these perceptions? In other words, you also want to take the money of the Boere to maintain the divisions of our people, to delay the revolution and the struggle against those who've stolen our land. I see we're almost getting to our 30 minutes. I want to go to talk quickly about something big, something really, really big also. In South Africa today, the biggest political fraud, the biggest political hoax is this idea that Parliament has passed a motion on land expropriation without compensation. This is a lie. There's nothing like that. A motion was passed, but it's got nothing to do with the expropriation of land. That motion is about what we have called a roadshow. The media did not tell us that the motion that passed in Parliament was not about amending the Constitution, but it was just about a roadshow. You know, in the roadshow, they say they're going to come around in the provinces. They're going to ask us, why do you want land expropriation without compensation? Justify why we must do land expropriation without compensation. We have explained in the UNISA talk, amongst others, that to bring an amendment to Parliament, you need 410 days on average. Those 110 days are not there. Part of Renwick's project is that there must be this false unity, that there is land expropriation without compensation supported by both Julius Malema and Ramaphosa. And that will justify why they'll work together. But there will be no actual land expropriation without compensation. You know how we said they want a beer without alcohol or revolution without the revolution. Exactly, that's what this will happen. Julius Malema knows this. He knows that we'll expose him. We'll tell him, the process does not allow land expropriation without compensation. But also, you don't even want land expropriation without compensation. All you want is unused land if land expropriation was to happen. So that's why Julius is running away. And we know that Julius has issued the 8th cardinal pillar for his fellows. And that 8th cardinal pillar says, do not debate in town. Before I go to Zimbabwe, let me just say tomorrow, the BLF 26 go back to court. BLF 26, those of us who were arrested in 2016 went to a protest at Thuli Madonsela's office because she refused to investigate white monopoly capital corruption. We're talking about 26 billion rand stolen by, among others, ABSA, Johan Rupert and his father, Daimler Chrysler, and a few others. We went and said, you must investigate this. Of course, you all know that the new public protector came out and said, indeed, ABSA must pay back the money. We know that our courts, which are in the pocket of white monopoly capital, have said, no, ABSA must not pay back the money. The shocking thing about that, of course, is that South African Reserve Bank, our Reserve Bank, the bank from which ABSA stole, was the one that went to court and said doesn't want ABSA to pay back the money. And in fact, they want the public protector, Advocate Mkhwebane, to pay from her own pocket punitive cost because she wanted ABSA to pay back the money stolen from us. So tomorrow we're in Pretoria in court again. We hope they will give us a date for trial. We want to go to trial because we haven't done any of the things that they said we have done, but we will continue to struggle for the return of our wealth and against white monopoly capital. We're not going to stop. Johan Rupert knows wherever he is, we're coming for him. So tomorrow is the BLF 26 for 26 billion rand. Other people are fighting for Ngandla, it's about 7 million rand. We want the billions stolen by white monopoly capital. Let's go quickly to Africa now. You know, South Africans, they like saying going to Africa as if we're not. Today we'll just do Zimbabwe. You know, after the coup, to tell the truth, some of us are not interested in Zimbabwean politics. Yeah, there was a coup in Zimbabwe. Yes, President was removed. The leader of the coup has been put in the front of the Times magazine, just to show you that he's been approved by global forces. The interesting development in Zimbabwe is that right now, there are primaries within ZANU-PF. 7 Zimbabwean government ministers and several of the cronies of Nagwagwa have been defeated inside ZANU-PF. The people rejecting the coup plotters. ZANU-PF people are rejecting them. They will not be on the ballot. They will not be going back to parliament. They've been defeated by people who are even not known within ZANU-PF. That's how unhappy the revolutionary forces of ZANU-PF are. And we hope that in Zimbabwe, other revolutionary people can link up with them and to make sure the Zimbabwean revolution is being saved. Latin America is in trouble. Big, big trouble. And perhaps you explain why Latin America is in trouble. Let's just explain that. You know, last year, in June, the president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, declared total independence of Bolivia from the IMF and the World Bank. This is the problem. And in South Africa, it's unfortunate. When President Zuma tried to move us away from the IMF and the World Bank, the Syrian forces have brought us back right into the house of hell. But in Latin America, in the past 20 years, they've been moving away from the IMF and the World Bank. They've been getting their own liberation, more or less. Evo Morales said last year, and I quote him, these organizations, IMF and the World Bank, dictated the economic fate of Bolivia and the world. Today, we can say that we have total independence of them, close quote. So Bolivia is out of the clutches of hell. But you know, Satan is very resilient. So they are right back in Latin America. There's trouble in Brazil, there's trouble in Venezuela, there's trouble in Ecuador, there's trouble in Nicaragua. All the progressive governments are under extreme pressure because global imperialism do not want our people to see freedom. What we will do next week, we'll go into Brazil, because Brazil is the laboratory of how imperialism remove presidents, remove governments which are progressive. It's if you want to understand what's happening, how they got rid of Zuma, how they created the Save South Africa, how courts are being bought, how civil society has been bought, you must go to Brazil. So next week we'll break down a little bit more. As we speak, we know President Lula is in jail for so-called corruption. And we know that the most corrupt people in Brazil are not in jail. The only reason why Lula is in jail is because Lula was going to win the election in October when he runs for president again. They don't want another person who's going to serve the poor. They're using what is called lawfare. We'll talk about lawfare next week and how parliamentary processes are being subverted. And I'm very worried about the elections in Bolivia because apparently the American government has come out, not in Bolivia, in Venezuela. The American government has come out and said that it will invade Venezuela. It will invade. We have to come out and support Venezuela. RET forces, if they go for Venezuela after the elections, it means us here in South Africa, when we take over on the RET ticket, they will invade us. We have to understand what is going on. This is serious. The need for solidarity and understanding how these forces operate is absolutely important. How they use corruption. All the leaders who want change are called corrupt, when the actual corrupt people are not there. And because they own the media, they will make sure that you look corrupt. They will create lie stories. They will talk about email leaks and all that goes with it. So we as RET, Radical Economic Transformation Forces, we have to make sure that we understand what's going on in Latin America, and we support those comrades, and we expose what is happening and strengthen our people to be able to defend the revolution. When we win the elections against white monopoly capital, believe me, they will come with these extra parliamentary processes. And in that place, I want my brother Georgia to be ready, because I want to tell everybody that we must be ready to go to Durban on the 8th of June. On the 8th of June, President Zuma is appearing again in court. It is our duty, it is our job to make sure that the world knows, imperialism knows, white monopoly knows that Zuma is not alone. Zuma represents us. And if they touch Zuma, they touch all of us, and we will resist. So my brother Georgia, you drag your chair and then you come join me in the studio. Let's do this thing. The news that don't make the news. How are you, my brother? Are you good? Mm-hmm. Georgia, I want us to deal with specifically brother James. But before we go there, I was wondering if you've been thinking a little bit about all your, unrehearsed, if you like, uh, 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 reflections on May 68, France. Does it teach us anything? Does it tell us anything? Is it an important calendar period for those people in the world who want to make change?
I do think so. Because I think 68 is part of the current criticism that is coming from within the left today. It represents a kind of international solidarity against the American imperialist interventions in the global south. So, I mean, if we to think about it now today, it has not only that political aspect, but also it has a different kind of way in which it influences us today. And one of them being 68 is a year, a canonical year of global struggles against capitalism. And in South Africa, black consciousness emerges in 68.
That's right.
And in many other places, I mean, 68 represents a complete disruption. But I mean, when some people, of course, now think about 68, they also think about how through the intervention of 68 also has created, I mean, particularly the nostalgia people have, is the nostalgia of people who think about it, but are no longer interested in the kind of political interventions.
But let me just say, because 68 was not just a workers' movement.
Yeah.
I mean, the students, the university, and the intellectual. I was just thinking a little bit that Althusser, by the way, ran away from Paris at the time. But 68, fees must fall. 68, what it did, the students were able to cross into the community and to the worker, and so you have almost a seamless. What about fees must fall? Did it attempt to make this possible crossovers?
I don't know.
And its impact can even be equated to what's happened in 68.
Well, I mean, the primary thing, as you mentioned, the primary thing about 68 was to create radical solidarities. And I think the greatest mistake of the student protests in South Africa now, in the last 3 years, is that they have not only forgotten the message of 68, but also they've forgotten the later message of 76. Because when many people criticize 76 students of doing their thing and not bringing the community, students started going out to the community. So what you have with the students is a typical kind of bourgeois interest in changing the universities. There's no coincidence that roads must fall immediately shifts into fees must fall. That is again a thing where we don't only lose the conceptual and the political, but we lose the very importance of students and communities moving together. I mean, I think some people as well, they later on went to engage the community, but it was not a tangible thing. It was not tangible solidarity because students were based largely in the university and they understood their politics outside of the larger political framework. Yeah, so they thought to some extent, as you would say, they want to decolonize the university, but not the country in which the university is part of. So, I mean, those kind of political moves, 68 presents that. I mean, if you think about the groups in Germany, the groups in America, people moving from the university and dragging not only the workers, they're dragging professionals as well. I mean, lawyers had to make a certain radical choice between, colonial law or capitalist law or whatever you call it, and real revolutionary or radical possibilities. So that's what you have, I think, if you were to compare 68 and 2015 or 2016 later, when things kind of changed and we're no longer interested in the question of that is internal to black people, which is roads.
What I will do, I want to invite you back just to deal with the issue of whether you can decolonize a university in a colonial society. I mean, this is some of the problems, and we must invite our brother Madisa Mngxitama because he's made some interesting intervention recently. But there's another interesting thing. My brother Ati Georgia, art critique, and I think one of the foremost intellectuals in our country. Georgia, there's a problem in the country. People call themselves Marxist-Leninists. And then they say, but it's a little thing. They say it is 135 years since the age of Karl Marx, or is it 200 years? Because it looks like somebody who, imagine ourselves as BLF being confused about, I mean, how old Steve Biko is. But there are people who claim to be Marxist-Leninists. I don't think they mention Fanon anymore. But so just that, please help us. Is it 200?
It's 200. It's 200.
What
kind of person says which? How many?
It's 135.
Confusing me with some of the riffraff from the ANC or the early intellectuals. But I'm just saying, like, it's just weird because it's the most trending thing now.
Of course, it needs reading.
Yeah.
They're not reading any left going. I mean, they're not on the sides of the left. They're not seeing what the left is saying. I mean, no one could confuse that it's 200 years. Yeah. I mean, everybody has been planning. Their meetings have been going.